Hey, and welcome to another episode of AutoFix-AdvisorCast with your host, Michael Doherty, sponsored by WorldPAC and the WorldPAC Training Institute. This podcast is your go-to source for service advising and automotive industry insights. Be sure to check out www.worldpac.com for the latest in auto parts distribution and www.wtitraining.com to explore training programs that can take your career to the next level. Stay connected with the WorldPAC Training Institute on their Facebook page and join the community at the STX Training and Expo by following this group. Don't forget to mark your calendars for the 2026 STI. Don't forget to mark your calendars for the STX 2026 this coming August at the Gaylord International in Washington, D.C. It will be a can't miss event. So, Service Advisor Nation, welcome to another episode. And hope you all had a great week and helping clients out. Today, I would love to talk about appointment scheduling and communication with your team, primarily the technicians, about new incoming appointments. And a lot of this is based on technician availability, how many bays you have in your shop. The shop that I work at and work with has 2 bays per technician. And we also have what we call a dead bay, which is basically a concrete pad in between 2 lifts. And we also have a 4-post alignment rack. So we've got a good amount of space and ample lifts to accommodate appointments. However, we do get in the situation once in a while where we have diagnosed a vehicle and it needs a heavier repair. And if the client authorizes that heavy repair, parts availability may not be next day. And I have seen some instances where larger drivetrain components, a transmission, a differential, etc., engine can be up to a week out if the dealer doesn't have it, if you're getting it from the dealer. And in the cases that we've had, we've gotten the differentials, transfer cases, and transmissions from the dealer, as the online abundance, honestly, of used parts kind of looked like garbage and higher mileage. So again, talking about appointment scheduling and communication with the technicians about those new incoming appointments. So hopefully, if you have made the appointment, or as I like to call it, service reservation with your client, whether it's a new client, existing client, etc., and I like the term service reservation, it just sounds more premium than making an appointment. Service reservation, I believe, just has a nice tone to it for the client. But typically, when I'm thinking about appointment scheduling, and by the way, I'm also doing dispatching in the shop for the technicians as a service advisor. So if you've got somebody in the shop that is already doing dispatching and it's not you, service advisor, it would likely be your shop foreman. Communication with that individual is also going to be essential for this part of what I'm talking about. If the service advisor is doing dispatching, then it makes it a little bit easier, and one less piece of communication to involve in that. But also, some shops, they have the front desk person, teammate, making appointments, and then the service advisor is taking those appointments and building estimates, etc. So again, if you've got a dedicated person in the shop that is answering the phones and making appointments or service reservations, communicate with that person as well. But for appointment scheduling or service reservation scheduling, I think it's really important to just know what's going on in the shop at all times. And I know that sounds like a very common sense thing, but can easily get distracting, and you can forget about it based on the amount of things you have going on that day and in front of you. And most service advisors aren't thinking ahead to the next day or the third day or the fourth day on the schedule. They're focused on that day when they're there taking care of those clients that day. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're definitely going to be doing scheduling as well, you want to think ahead. And that's why I mentioned earlier in the conversation about if you've got some larger jobs that are maybe tying up some lifts or bay space, that can definitely impact how you're going to schedule. And normally in our shop, we have a team meeting in the morning. And in that team meeting, I'm communicating with the team about the cars that are in the shop from the previous day or days, parts availability for those vehicles, how things are looking as far as new incoming appointments or service reservations for that day, and if we're going to have a waiter appointment or waiter appointments in the mix. Normally, we don't like to do waiters. And again, I've mentioned in previous episodes, I feel like that's a rush situation for the client and the shop. And at times, mistakes can be made, but also be prevented. I would classify a waiter appointment, honestly, as maybe doing a tire repair for somebody, a tire plug, a tire patch, and past that, maybe a oil service, but really nothing more than that for a waiter appointment. And why do I say that? Because you're not able to really get across the value of the service you're offering to the client, especially if you're doing DVIs or courtesy checks. That information that you're getting from the technician and then supplying to the client, they're likely not going to stick around to have some of those things done if there is a recommendation, because they have to be on their way. So again, waiter appointments really, I feel like, are more of like an emergency situation, or if somebody is really just coming in for an oil service, and if they are an existing client, a great way to determine that when you're making the service reservation or appointment for them is to go back through the history of their vehicle with you and look to see if they've had any declined work, filters, fluid services from a previous appointment. And if not, if they're really just in for an oil service and nothing else, then, take it in and do what you can with them. But that's just how it's gone over the years for me and my personal recommendation. But we actually had a lady in last week as a waiter with a 2023 Volkswagen ID4. First time I've seen one of those vehicles. When I made the service reservation with her on the phone a week prior, she had mentioned that her driver's rear tire has been leaking air. Not fast, but slowly. And I asked her how long, and she said June of 2024. It's now November of 2024. So it's been a hot minute since that's been going on for her. And she also advised me at time of making the service reservation that there's been 2 other shops that have looked at the vehicle for her and are unable to find or determine the source of the air leak that she is experiencing for that driver's rear tire. So we got the vehicle in, got it checked in into the walk around. I got the information sent back to the technician, and he came to grab me once he got the car up on the lift. And there is a bolt that has penetrated the tire contact patch, a silver bolt on a black tire. And I don't know how 2 other shops did not see that. But in any event, we were able to accommodate. It was safe to plug. We did that for her and got her on her way. And she was super, super happy and thankful. So glad for the opportunity there to gain a new client. And she asked me why the other 2 shops weren't able to detect that. And I honestly told her I don't know. And that's God's truth. God's honest truth. Don't know. It was very obvious, but maybe they just didn't want to help her. I don't know. In any event, so for appointment scheduling, I always try and think of the next day or the second day or the third day ahead from the day that I'm currently on. And reason for that is I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking for holes in the schedule, room in the schedule that I can squeeze things in for to maximize shop efficiency. And I know if a client's coming or a technician's coming off a larger job and he doesn't have another vehicle in his queue, he's probably not going to be too happy. So if that morning, the next business day, I can get him 1 or 2 vehicles in for him when he gets in first thing in the morning, if he has an extra lift to do a service or maintenance on or a vehicle check over, and send me that DVI information back with pictures and a great write-up, he'll have more work after he's done with that bigger job. But I always like to encourage clients, if they're not going to be needing a loaner vehicle, if your shop offers that, or a rental vehicle or an Uber ride for their service reservation or appointment that you've made with them, if they can do a night drop of the vehicle, that works out great, especially for the shop that's working on the vehicle. If it's dropped off the night before, the vehicle's already cooled down, and that's also important depending on the area that you're working on the vehicle. Nobody likes putting their hands in a hot engine bay, and it maximizes, I think, time efficiency versus the client dropping off the vehicle at 8 or 9 in the morning. Then the vehicle has to cool down for potentially an hour or 2. So again, if you can encourage clients to do night drops, if they're able to do that, that works out great for the shop. and also gives you a quicker time to get the client's vehicle in, get it serviced, get it checked over, and go from there. But balancing workload with technician availability. This coming week, I'll have a technician out Thursday and Friday, and he was caught up on work end of day Friday last week. So he's definitely going to get some new incoming appointments tomorrow, Tuesday, and then we'll see where he's at on Tuesday if I need to taper off a little bit or if I feel he can take a couple more appointments in for Wednesday and then, not send him any more work. Not that I don't want to, but he won't be here Thursday and Friday. So I have to think of that and also think of the other two technicians. Now they're going to have access to 2 more additional lifts that they wouldn't have during the week. And that's going to make them happy. So I can technically bring more work in, but I also have to be mindful of not overworking the technicians as well. So it's a very fine balance. It's always thinking ahead of, what are they currently working on? What are their capabilities for the week? And I think a lot of that too goes with just knowing the technicians, their working habits, their working style, hours through the week, through the months, over the years that you've known them, and their efficiency, and trying to squeeze in as much efficiency as possible, but also get the job done right the first time around. No one wants to come back, not the shop, not a client, and definitely not a technician. But again, just really trying to be efficient in how we schedule, how we talk about things with communication with the technicians, and letting them know, hey, Mr. or Mrs. that technician, the next day we're going to have a waiter at 2:00. And it's going to be for this particular service or maintenance. And I would like you to take this because you're going to have an opening. Let them know in advance that they would have a waiter appointment versus popping it on them as soon as the client gets there. No one likes surprises, and that kind of gets under their skin. I found it over the years, the technician side. So again, just be proactive. If you know you're going to have a waiter appointment that morning for the next business day or whatever, just communicate with your team, with your technician, with your dispatcher, or if you're the dispatcher, service advisor with the dispatcher, just again, communication. So all good stuff. But in North Carolina, where I live in Raleigh, the weather has been phenomenal. It has been 68, 71 degrees, sunny. The project cars are out. Seen a lot of groups of muscle cars driving around this weekend. Really cool. Older Fox body Mustangs, older Camaros, 68, 69 Camaros, older Chevy trucks. It's car show time. Getting to a couple car shows, hopefully, and checking some stuff out there, just seeing who's got what and what new projects are out there prowling the streets, who's got some twin turbo kits, etc. All cool stuff. But so, again, with waiter appointments, depending on what you've got coming in, is really, I feel, going to dictate if it's really a waiter appointment or not. And I wouldn't say we discourage waiter appointments, but at the same time, I don't think it's beneficial for the shop and the client to do a waiter appointment because, again, it just always feels like a rush situation. And there's several things, again, I classify as waiters, which may be a safety situation with a tire or really just a quick oil service and nothing else past that. And I have had clients come in for their waiter appointment and then say, hey, by the way, I've also got a check engine light, or can you check out my coolant level? And, we've set a time block to do the oil service as a waiter and really not much more of a time block. And at that point, hopefully I can transition them into a loaner car or get them a ride, but letting them know, again, communicating that that really isn't a waiter type scenario, that the car really needs to be left with us. And here's why. Again, let them know why, just tell them no, let them know why. So again, communication with the shop, your coworkers, team members, and all that good stuff. So, but I appreciate your time. This is Michael Doherty from AutoFix-AdvisorCast. Thank you again to our sponsor, WorldPAC. We appreciate you, and I hope you guys have a great upcoming week with your team, and hope you meet some team goals, and have a great week, and we'll be back in touch next week. All right, go Service Advisor Nation. Have a great day. Bye.